freedom can become its own prison. Have we created a society which pressures young women in its own way to be promiscuous, to have lots of experiences, and it's not all it's cracked up to be for them?
And why are we having less sex? What is the complex web of factors that?
Well, one of them I would say is that in a free and easy mating environment, women don't trust men.
Fellas, promoting a casual sex culture when you're in your teens, 20s, and sometimes early 30s, and then turning around in your late 30s, early 40s, and expecting to find yourself a wholesome woman with a low body count, but who's also very skilled and freaky in the bedroom just for you, but also has no kids, that does not make any logical sense.
This whole thing surrounding like dating and like hookup culture, all that type of stuff, you know, the things that we talk about every day. It's very interesting to me how it would appear that men completely understand what's going on. I'm like, I know that, like, it's not that I'm realizing that to be true. And okay, let me say this. When I say that we know, I'm saying that men have heard it all before, like Sunshine Anderson. That's what I'll say. I don't know if they have accepted it, which means I don't know if they know it necessarily. You know what I mean? If you don't accept something, I don't, you know, technically you don't know it because, you know, but you don't believe it. Whatever. I don't know. However you want to put it. But nonetheless, there are enough men out here that they are harmful. They are, in one breath, they'll say things that are very harmful to men and harmful to women and leading us astray, right? But then in the next breath, they'll say the most poignant, observant things you can think of and just lay out the truth for everybody, for the men, you know, for men and women. You're just like, how can these thoughts exist in the same person? You know what I mean? And that's the cognitive dissonance. The whole thought A should cancel out thought B. You can't believe in thought A, think no thought A to be real, but also have thought B, C, D, whatever. These scenarios play out over and over and over again, and I always find them to be very interesting. But I want to show you guys how weird, like this conversation is so weird when you listen to it, the way that I hear it. This is how I hear it, this is how I see it, right? I see it like piece by piece, and I'm like, wow, if I know I'm not the only one that's not a man, I should say, not observing, not being able, I'm not the only man that is observing this.
Freedom has become a pressure. There's become a societal pressure to be free. Mostly the term hookup culture is used between 15 and 30. So you're correct in saying a 32-year-old woman should have the right to have sex with whoever the hell she wants to have sex with. And I'm right there with you. She should have choice, whatever. But young women, young men who are developing emotionally, mentally,
should not have the right.
No, that's not what. No, can I finish?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, sorry. So you interrupted, so I didn't get to finish.
I'm so sorry.
Okay, so they're more vulnerable. They are more vulnerable emotionally to what the hookup culture does to them. There's a lot of research to say that it causes loneliness, depression, anxiety, tons of regret, embarrassment, shame, self-esteem issues. Freedom can become its own prison. Have we created a society which pressures young women in its own way to be promiscuous, to have lots of experiences, and it's not all it's cracked up to be for them. It really isn't in terms of their mental health. 9 to 25, really 27 in young men is the second critical period of brain development, where they are very susceptible to their relational experiences and their environment. And so in that period of development, which is mostly what we use the term hookup culture for, that's a very vulnerable brain. And so we have created a culture that confuses that brain, that offers too many choices, that pressures them into having multiple partners and many experiences, and leaves them feeling empty and lonely.
Okay. Now, what she is saying is something that men say often about hookup culture, right? Now, My thoughts on hookup culture is it's not a real thing. Hookup culture is just people having sex, and people have been having sex since the beginning of time. I don't think there's necessarily like a culture of hooking up, if that makes sense. I think that a part of the human experience is to have sex. That's just a part of it. How many people we have sex with, whatever, you know what I mean? Whatever, like that's, whoever. I heard that, that's a separate thing. But just the concept of having sex is that's just a human thing, So, but men like to use this as a way to shame women. Now, this woman, I've done videos on her. I think we would call her a pick-me, for lack of a better term. She's a problem to me. My opinion is she's a very problematic person in this space, because she's spreading false information. She, like men that I've heard talk about this, they cite these studies that in the studies don't say being promiscuous is the reason why people are lonely later on in life. That's not what they say. It's just that there is a correlation between people who are promiscuous and loneliness, people who are promiscuous and self-deletion, people who are promiscuous and other mental health issues, right? I've talked about this before on my channel many a times. But promiscuity is not a disease. Promiscuity is not a condition. Promiscuity oftentimes is a reaction to abuse. Also what's found, they don't talk about this part of the study, is the people who are the most promiscuous often have a history of abuse that they've suffered from, mainly as children, whether it be sexual abuse or any other type of abuse, mainly sexual abuse. But that is what that's the number one driver in the promiscuity. And that cause, that root right there, you can connect that to so many negative things, so many negative symptoms, like violence, like lying, like narcissism. Like there's a ton of like physical abuse, like a child that, like if you were abused as a child, you're more likely to abuse when you're older. You see what I'm saying? Like why, when it comes to promiscuity, all of a sudden is promiscuity in and of itself is the problem. Like that's not the problem. Because again, if you put promiscuity in a vacuum, what's the problem? What's the problem? You use protection, it's consensual, society doesn't shame you for it. Where would the problem come from? You can sleep with 100 people. That doesn't mean you can't connect with somebody. You want to sleep with 100 people. There's nothing wrong with that. Morally, physically, emotion, there's nothing, there is no data to suggest that promiscuity in and of itself is a problem. But data exists that says, hey, we looked at people who self-report to be promiscuous, and guess what? They also have reported other mental health issues. Again, but when you read more studies and more data on this, it's like, oh yeah, no, it's because they got their freaking head stomped in between the ages of 5 and 13. It's because they were abandoned by their father at 7 years old and they never saw him again. It was because they were neglected by their mothers. Like that's the catalyst. The catalyst is the childhood abuse. Very, very few people, I guarantee you, very few people that grew up in healthy environments grow up to be promiscuous. Lastly, promiscuity is completely subjective. It's not even scientific. Listen, doctor, lady, whatever. How can promiscuity be a cause of something when it in and of itself can't be diagnosed scientifically? You can't diagnose it. You can't diagnose promiscuity because what's a lot of partners? Isn't it relative? Wouldn't it? Listen to what I'm saying. If it's based on society, then it's completely subjective, right? Meaning, in America, promiscuity could be anywhere between sleeping with, I'm just making up stuff because it again means nothing. Promiscuity could mean by the age of 20, if a woman or a man sleeps with No. Also, gender matters too, right? Okay, cool. So by the age of 20, a woman sleeps with 20 dudes, she's promiscuous, right? Okay, in America. But in France, if the average body count, quote unquote, the sexual partner count in France for a woman by the age of 20 is 15, then 20 wouldn't be really necessarily promiscuous. If in America, the average body count for a woman, the age of 20 is 3, then 20 would, you see what I'm saying? That's what constitutes promiscuity. It is a fucking completely subjective term, condition. It's completely subjective. It means nothing. Promiscuity, it literally means nothing. It can't, if you really think about it, you can't even study it scientifically. You can't. It's so hard to. It's damn near impossible. Just based on that alone. Because again, when you ask a person, we've had this discussion many times with men, hey, what's a high body count? Oh, 3, 13, 5, 50. It completely subjective. So listen to what I'm saying. So what if to one person, having had slept with 5 dudes by the age of 20 is promiscuous, right? And then you look at that and you look at that young woman and she doesn't have any mental health issues. She is relatively healthy. She is productive. She doesn't suffer from depression, so on and so forth. Are we then going to say, oh, well, look, see, promiscuity doesn't mean anything? But if somebody comes in and says, oh no, 5 that's a lie. You're only supposed to have 1 by the, that's 5 times more. You have 5 times more than the average 20-year-old woman should have. And then, you know what I'm saying? And then you look at that woman and the same thing, is she, how are we saying that's problematic then? How are we connecting that dot? It doesn't make any sense. To one person, 5 bodies means nothing. To another person, 5 bodies means everything. It's stupid. But this is the argument that men use. And then simultaneously, scientifically speaking, we're having less sex as a society and as a culture. So where the fuck is this idea of a hookup culture even coming from? They're acting like, that woman is acting like it's a new phenomenon, like, oh, hookup culture. Okay, cool, bet. But how can this be true then?
Sexlessness is increasing.
Yeah.
People are having less and less sex.
Oh, yeah, that's fascinating.
Does it matter?
Oh, it's a catastrophe.
And why are we having less sex? What is the complex web of factors that?
Well, one of them I would say is that in a free and easy mating environment, women don't trust men. And no wonder. Here's a terrible thing to know. So imagine that there are men who are oriented towards short-term relationships and there are men who are oriented towards long-term relationships, committed relationships. So that would be the men who want love along with sex, let's say, love and commitment. Then there's the party today because we're all dead tomorrow sort of guys. And there's some women like that too, although fewer women because they pay a much higher price for sexual impropriety. Mm-hmm. So the pool of short-term maters has more men in it. Okay, what do they like? Well, the personality studies have already been done. They're Machiavellian, which means they use their language to manipulate. They're narcissistic, which means they want unearned social status. They're psychopathic, which makes them predatory parasites. And they're sadistic. Okay, so now you open up the mating market so that short-term dalliances are acceptable. You throw all the women into the hands of the psychopaths. Well, that's a bad strategy. And it's no wonder that it decimates the mating market because women are thinking, well, are those men trustworthy? And the answer is no.
Exactly. And Jordan Peterson, by the way, is one of those men that I'm talking about. In one breath, Jordan Peterson, I've heard him say the most disgusting shit ever about women and then turn around and say this is everything he just said is so spot on. And it blows up that whole argument of a hookup culture, not a real thing, because women are having less and less sex, but because of men, right? And it also blows up the whole idea that like, oh, men and women are just, we're just at odds with one another. And no, it's men. Even Jordan Peterson, the red pillion that he is saying under no uncertain terms that men are the reason why the dating market is fucked up. I've said that 1,000 times. I got lives on that shit. I got video after video where I say men fucked up the dating market. Men fucked up the dating market. Men are to blame for all of this stuff. And he just laid it out perfectly. Everything he said, 100%. I agree with 100%. I have no notes whatsoever. But I just think that it's odd that we're trying to use these tactics, these manipulation tactics to control women's bodies. Like, bro, leave off, bro. I swear to God, this is why I just don't talk about women shit. I just stay out of it. I stay out of it because it's useless. It's pointless to talk about women and like what women are doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, because they're not the problem. They at best, at worst, whatever, they can contribute to the problem. They aren't the problem, though. They aren't the problem. They can contribute to it. Cool. There's some women that contribute to it. Hell, most women contribute to it in some way. Fine. I'll believe that too. Yep, I'll believe that. But anyways, let's get to the crux of the problem. Men being psychopathic, sadistic, narcissistic, manipulative. Let's get to that. Can we get to that? Because everything that women are doing is simply just a reaction to those things. You know what I'm saying? We're the cause, they're the symptom. They have, you know what I mean? Like, and we're the cause, and then symptoms are created because of us being the fucking disease that we are, as he called it, the parasites, right?
Fellas, promoting a casual sex culture when you're in your teens, 20s, and sometimes early 30s, and then turning around in your late 30s, early 40s, and expecting to find yourself a wholesome woman with a low body count, but who's also very skilled in freaking in the bedroom just for you, but also has no kids, that does not make any logical
A freaky virgin, sorry.
sense. It does not make logical sense for you to say, you know what, from my late teens all the way up to my mid 30s, I'm going to just be out here having fun and I'm going to be hooking up with all these different women. But when I'm ready to settle down, I'm going to find me this woman that miraculously don't have hardly any bodies. She's been very, conservative in terms of who she's dealt with, but she's also very skilled in the bedroom, and she also doesn't have any kid. That don't make sense.
The only thing I will push back against is you don't have to sleep with a bunch of people to be skilled in the bedroom. And I've been with my wife for 18 years, and studies show that the people who have the best sex are people that have been together for 20 consecutive years. So let's just take, you know what I mean? Like a woman could be with, and a man could be with one person, two people, right? Let's say you're 30 years old, you had one serious relationship, y'all dated for 5 or 6 years. You got to have a lot of sex in that time. You got to learn a lot about yourself, what you like, what you don't like. I would hope so. So no, I disagree that like just because like you have to like, I'm not saying that you can't expect a person to be experienced, but like that's not beyond like reasonable to consider. You know what I'm saying? That a person could be skilled or whatever, skilled in sex, but not sleep with a bunch of people. You know what I mean? Like I definitely will, say that that's not the same thing. But I hear what he's saying. I agree with his point overall. You know what I mean? And I do think that men have unfair expectations of women, but I don't think that would be one necessarily. Same thing with the woman. Like she can expect a man who is a willing lover and a confident lover, right? Which a lot of those things come from experience, but that doesn't mean that he has to sleep with 30 women. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not, 30 women in a year. Let's put a number on it, right?
Especially when you add on to that fact that a lot of you guys, when you are finally ready to settle down and you come across this woman that you think has been, conservative or reserved enough, you want this woman to give you some right off the rip.
Mm-hmm.
So you chose her or found her because she wasn't out there like that, but you want her to just be out there like that for you. When you do meet this woman and she tells you she's celibate or she wants to wait until marriage or engage, you're looking at her crazy. It doesn't make sense.
Yes. I wish I could find that video of that man talking about whenever a woman or when women say that they're celibate and they're over the age. I forgot what he said, but he was basically like, when women say they're celibate, they're lying. Like he was like, all women that say they're celibate are lying or something like that. I was like, what? Wow. Okay. So you don't want a woman that's promiscuous, but you also don't believe a woman when she says she's celibate. Y'all just, I'm telling you, men literally we are a hive mind because the way the manipulation works, the way you guys, use the manipulation it is amazing how natural it is. How like you don't need to tell men to say shit like that. They just know intuitively to say stupid shit like that. While other men know on the back end to say stupid shit like, oh, I want a woman that's not promiscuous. You see what I'm saying? It don't even have to come out the same man's mouth, and they're working in tandem. It's like tennis, man, and women are the ball. Like the men are just slapping the women back, keeping the women confused and discombobulated. And men, since we are the problem, we are also the cure, like I've been saying. And we could change this anytime we want to. We could do it anytime we want to, but we gotta want to do the work. But there's a problem with that.
Notice that a lot of times when I make videos on like dating and stuff like that, a lot of men typically come to my comments and express a lot of resentment around the idea that they have to put in any kind of work to become more attractive. And it's interesting because they don't express that same resentment when it comes to putting work in other domains. Like if I told you in order to make more money, you had to learn a high value skill, you would accept that. If I told you that in order to get in better shape, you got to go to the gym and eat more healthy, you would accept that as a fact, right? But when it comes to relationships, when it comes to love, there's a lot of pushback. And I think the reason for that pushback is relationships is the one area where we have to contend with the fact that a lot of men have fantasies around it. And the fantasy that men have when it comes to relationships is this idea that a woman should love them for them. Love them completely as they are, with no changes being necessary. And I understand that, but you got to call it what it is, a fantasy. The reality is the world is very competitive. And if you're trying to compete with men who are putting the work in, you're going to get lapped every time. So I want to offer you a subtle reframe that'll probably help you. Instead of you thinking that you have to change yourself, instead, look at it as you're simply framing yourself in your most attractive light. So you're not changing anything about the core of who you are. You're simply framing yourself and positioning yourself in a way that allows women to more easily notice you and resonate with you. And if you can accept that frame, you won't experience so much internal resistance around the idea of having to improve or put in effort to become more.
This sounds like manipulation to me, because are you a better person or are you not a better person? I'm curious. Are you just like, it's like staging a house, right? Like staging goes a long way, but are the bones of the house good or bad? Like, what's behind that wall? Are there termites? Like, I don't know. I mean, I get what he's saying to a certain extent. I agree with pretty much the whole first part. That's why I shared the video, but that last part kind of lost me. But yeah, men don't want to do the work ultimately, and we are fanatical. We have like this, like we're out of our minds. You know what I'm saying? Like I won't say fanatical. We don't have a realistic grasp of what the issue is, what the issues are, how we can change them, how can we address them. We don't want to accept the truth. We don't want to accept the truth that we are the problem, we are the cause, and we need to adjust, we need to grow up. Sadly enough, you know what I mean? Like that's what's really going on. So I don't know what we're gonna do about it, but as of now, it's looking like we're at a stalemate, and men are doing everything except becoming the best versions of ourselves.